In 1893, the world looked to Chicago. The world's Columbian Exposition was a dream city, built of plaster and light, a testament to progress and American ingenuity. But just miles from this shining spectacle, another darker monument was taking shape. A charismatic doctor named H. Holmes had opened a hotel, a place the papers would later call the Murder Castle. They told tales of a 3-story labyrinth with secret passages, soundproof rooms, and a basement equipped for human dissection. But what if the most terrifying thing about the castle wasn't the building, but the myth we all fell for? The monster of Chicago wasn't born there. He was born Herman Webster Mudgett in New Hampshire. A con artist from the start, he perfected his scams in medical school, defrauding insurance companies with doctored corpses. In 1886, he arrived in the Chicago suburb of Englewood, took the name Dr. Henry Howard Holmes, and his grand, dark ambition began to take root. After taking over a local pharmacy under suspicious circumstances, Holmes began construction on his now infamous building at 63rd and Wallace. The legend, fueled by the yellow press, is chilling. The story goes he constantly hired and fired construction crews, ensuring no one but him understood the building's true twisted design. A maze of over 100 rooms, many without windows. Soundproofed vaults where he could asphyxiate his victims. Trapdoors in the floors and chutes in the walls that led straight to a dungeon-like basement, complete with an acid vat, a human-sized furnace, and a bloody dissection table. It was, they said, a factory built for murder. When the World's Fair opened in 1893, the legend claims Holmes had a steady supply of victims. Tourists, job-seeking young women, and lovers, all disappearing into the labyrinth, never to be seen again. But the crime that would actually bring down America's first serial killer had nothing to do with the castle's rumored guests. It was a simple, brutal insurance scam. Meet Benjamin Pitezel, a carpenter, a father of 5, and Holmes's loyal associate in crime. Holmes convinced Pitezel to be the subject of a $10,000 life insurance fraud. The plan was simple. Pitezel would fake his death, and his wife would collect the money, which they would all split. But H. Holmes didn't do partners. In Philadelphia in 1894, instead of faking the death, Holmes murdered Benjamin Pitezel for real, knocking him out with chloroform and setting his body on fire. He collected the entire $10,000 payout himself, but he wasn't done. He went back to the grieving Mrs. Pitezel and with unimaginable cruelty convinced her that her husband was still alive and in hiding. He told her he would take 3 of her children, Alice, Nellie, and Howard, to be with their father. Instead, he began a ghastly, cross-country journey, a predator on the run with 3 innocent children in tow. This was the crime that sparked the manhunt. The sensational murders in the castle weren't what put the law on Holmes's trail. It was the dogged, methodical work of one man, Philadelphia Detective Frank Geyer. His mission wasn't to explore a mythical castle, but to find 3 missing children. Geyer followed Holmes's cold trail city by city, first to Cincinnati, where he found evidence that Holmes had stayed with the children. Then, he moved on to Indianapolis. It was there he made a horrifying discovery. In a stove in a house Holmes had rented, Geyer found charred bones and teeth. They were the remains of little Howard Pitezel. Holmes had killed him, dismembered him, and burned his body before moving on with his sisters. Geyer pressed on, his heart heavy, now desperate to find the girls. The trail led him to Toronto. In the cellar of another rented house, buried beneath a few feet of dirt, he made the final, heartbreaking discovery. He found a shallow grave containing the nude bodies of Alice and Nellie Pitezel. Holmes had forced them into a large trunk, locked the lid, and gassed them to death through a small hole he had drilled in the top. The hunt for the children was over. While Detective Geyer was uncovering the tragic truth of the Pitezel family, the press had turned Holmes's building into a national sensation. Chicago police finally raided the so-called Murder Castle, and what they found was both bizarre and revealing. There was evidence of Holmes's scams everywhere. The oversized furnace, the bank vault, the strange, winding hallways designed to confuse creditors and hide stolen goods. They found a dissection table and some fragments of bone, some animal, some possibly human. But what they didn't find was just as important. There were no complex torture racks, no automated killing rooms, no gas chambers piped into the walls. The building wasn't a state-of-the-art murder factory. It was a poorly constructed fire trap built by a swindler. Holmes was arrested in Boston. Facing the evidence, his story changed by the day. First, he claimed innocence. Then, he sold a sensational confession to the Hearst newspapers for $7,500, admitting to 27 murders. Finally, he claimed he was possessed by Satan. But for all the dozens, or even hundreds, of murders he was accused of, he was tried and convicted for only one: the murder of Benjamin Pitezel. In 1896, the noose was placed around his neck. His reign of terror was over. Or was it? The legend of H. Holmes only grew after his death. The number of his victims swelled in the public imagination, from 27 to over 200. But modern historians and investigators place the number of confirmed murders at around 9. This includes the Pitezel family, and a few business associates and lovers he killed for money. Still a horrific number, but nowhere near the myth. We don't need secret passages or gas chambers to be horrified. The true story of a predator who murdered a father and then methodically hunted and killed his 3 small children is more than horrifying enough on its own.